we're giving people who have little or maybe no options another chance at being with their loved ones.
People here are really passionate about being here.
It's really rewarding to know that the work that we're doing here is going to help change people's lives.
We literally are getting bags of patient cells who have failed a previous therapy and they need help.
What we're trying to do is teach our patients' immune system to fight the cancer.
There's not a single thing that we do that doesn't have a direct impact on the patient.
What Kite has done in locating Maryland is really strategic.
Frederick County has been absolutely amazing to be able to help us to establish this very unique facility. We're really quite happy with our partnerships with the local communities here. So at Hood College, we have a collaboration with them to where we initiated a lab jointly. I'm grateful to say that we're starting the apprenticeship with Frederick Community College. And these are the kind of things that I hope we start going outside and thinking a little bit differently and really engaging people who want to learn. And with the research coming up, it's going to be amazing where we see the site and also the industry in the very near future.
Our next segment is a fireside chat. Please welcome Nicole Wood and Jim Jackson.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fireside Chat Bioinnovation Conference. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Nicole Wood, and I am the Regional Director for Government Affairs at PhRMA. So we are the trade association that represents 34 large global R&D companies. We've been busy last 18 months, so it's great to be here today. And I want to introduce my chat partner here today, Jim Jackson, who is the site head at Kite Pharmaceuticals. Yep. We are so excited to have you here. We have been waiting with bated breath to have your facility up and running, and I think we've watched the progress so far, and it's really exciting to have you here. So we're so glad that Kite decided to call Frederick home.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Again, we go from Zoom to a stage, so.
Yeah, it's so nice to be in face-to-face and seeing people's faces again. I think if anything, the last 18 months has humanized us a little bit. And, this is something, this time period we're going through is pretty remarkable. I think if we really look to the solutions that we have to collaborate on moving forward, you can't mandate out of this pandemic and you can't legislate out of this pandemic. We have to innovate out of this pandemic. And with some of the exciting things that are happening, with this group in particular, with Marty and Brad and the whole Maryland Tech Council family, I'm so excited to be a part of it. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about Kite, some of the exciting things that you guys are doing that are really absolutely revolutionary.
No, we're excited.
But I'm going to start by picking on you for a few minutes.
Okay, please.
Okay. So you moved from Texas.
I did.
And you told me that when I asked you if I could ask anything personal, you said, I have 3 daughters, so I'm an open book. I am the youngest of 3 daughters, so I understand your pain well, unfortunately. But let's go to what made you want to come to Kite. You were at MD Anderson Cancer Center, world-renowned cancer center, doing world-renowned work there. What was so special about Kite?
At some part or another, you get to a part where you think you're supposed to go your traditional route, and you study, and you go through the ranks, and you want to join into pharma. And then after about 20 years, you start rethinking. You start seeing how the technology has evolved. You start seeing where you can best impact and where you want to take the next rest of your career. So when I chose to leave a very, I would say very successful and upcoming biotech company in New York, it was that next step. So I had experience in genetic modification of strains. I had a deep interest in gene editing and gene therapy. So when you're looking from a manufacturing perspective, it was that one part to where can you best fit in? And where can you best really kind of take something and bring, instead of just to look for opportunities for the cure. So when I started having discussions and looking at where I wanted to bring my next skills, that discussion came with MD Anderson. So it come to a part, and I'm going to be known as, my daughters are going to know me as the person who moved them twice during the pandemic. So, you know, when there's an opportunity.
You're very popular at home right now.
I'm very popular at home, day in, day out. But when I was talking with MD Anderson, the opportunity to be there at the site working with the people who collaborated with Jim Allison, the 2018 Nobel Prize winner, and seeing what they're doing and the intimate relationship that they're having with the patients, I wanted to be able to be a part of that. And the opportunity there was to bring in a cell therapy manufacturing facility that is going to be able to produce therapies, groundbreaking therapies, to what they were currently working on that were very early stage and potentially be a launch. To be a part of that, to bring their first premier facility in, and then also be a part of that treatment team, so to speak. So as we're coming through, I get down there, and then here comes the pandemic, and everything changes. So we brought on the facility and got to meet a lot of people, got to meet some of the oncologists, and it was really amazing to me that when you're with people who have literally manufactured product, and then they take the therapy, and then they watch the patient get infused, and at some part or another, you're in this very intimate relationship where they call the patient by the name. You don't see that in traditional pharma. You're having people who will come to you with, this is my last opportunity, and I'm willing to give you everything I've got if you're willing to give me everything you got. It's extremely humbling. And the 1 year that I spent there was transformational for me. And at some part or another, this is where I was looking at the rest of my career, and this is what I want. I want to be able to take some of the skills that I have gained in the past 20 years and make impact on a greater scale. So when we were talking with MD Anderson, we were putting together this this idea of a manufacturing facility for the future, and they're building a whole new multi-billion-dollar complex there in the center of Houston, and I outlined what the cell therapy facility of the future would look like. And then I started having discussions with Kite, and I said, "Oh my goodness, they've already built it." So, you know, it was everything that, you know, I had imagined, but bigger. And when I had the opportunity to talk with people in Kite, I knew people who spent some years in Kite. I got to meet the people that I was getting to work with in the leadership team, and that was just it. This was the folks that I knew that we could make something special happen in a very special area here. So it was an opportunity to take the job. I had not seen the site, but I went on a level of trust, and I have never regretted that decision. So.
Wonderful. Well, we're happy to have you, and definitely happy to have you here today to talk about something that is, you know, I use the word revolutionary, but it is. It's amazing. When we think of, and you say, you know, typical pharma, and we talk about years and years in clinical trials, and, you know, API and all the different critical parts that make up traditional pharma and how we arrive at therapies and cures and medicines that extend and save lives. There are giant warehouses that have API, and when a patient walks into Kite, they are the warehouse. So you truly are taking the patient. It's all about the patient. And most of the patients who come to you are very ill. They're in a very late stage of a blood cancer, and you're their last hope. It's a lot of pressure to put on you guys, and I think people don't understand that when a patient comes in, and maybe you can walk us through the process from when a patient gets approved for a CAR T treatment, what it is, what makes it so different from traditional cancer therapies, and maybe the future. And we can walk through just a few steps, but starting with what is CAR T for us who don't throw those acronyms around at the breakfast table as much as probably you do. And then what are the typical patients who get approved for this therapy? And then what does the future look like?
So right now with Kite, we have 2 approved therapies for 4 indications. So I believe, I don't know statistics, we're so focused on manufacturing and getting the site up. But in general, we have 4 indications. I think it's the most than any other company has right now. But CAR-T is basically chimeric antigen receptor, and that's basically an opportunity to chimeric or fuse proteins, but it's one that allows your receptor to be able to recognize the cancer cells within your body. And then the fusion is the opportunity to be able, once that recognition happens, it's turning on those cells to be able to act like a normal white blood cell would be able to tackle any kind of antigen that happens within your body. So it's really bringing in people's patients' white blood cells, selecting those right blood cells, activating them, and I love where we are as far as science right now. It's getting back down to the basics. So really understanding what a virus does, and really understanding what a viral vector can be and what a genetic payload is. It's really introducing your cells with that genetic payload and giving it the equipment to be able to turn back to the patient and really seek out the cancer that exists within your body. So it's elegant, it's beautiful, it's simplistic, but everything around it is not simplistic.
Right.
So when you're talking about a patient being able to get approved of the therapy, right now, patients they've had to go either through chemotherapy or a second-line therapy, and then usually they have failed at least 2 other therapies.
Okay.
So if you're imagining from a patient perspective, it's very daunting, having to get success and then come to find out that your cancer is back, and then success again, and then the cancers come back. So where we come in is that a patient will be approved to be able to go for this, what we call a third-line therapy, and hopefully it's going to be second and first-line in the future, but that's to come. But in general, the patient will come to an apheresis facility or a clinic, and that's where you draw the blood from the patient. And you kind of have to imagine that in traditional pharma, traditional biopharma, you're trying to control the process, right? So you can't have patients come to Kite, fly to Kite, give your blood, and then go back home and then come back.
Right.
So you have to be able to have multiple apheresis collection centers throughout, right now in the U.S., throughout the world, throughout the multiple regions. So being able to, that's the first step of the process. So how are you able to work with those apheresis collection centers? How are you able to control and try to optimize at least that part of the process to be able to start everything? And from there, the collection will come, and then it comes inside of Kite, and that's where we take our manufacturing process and start it. Now, to go back, when you talked about warehouses and you talked about API and all these things,
Right.
we would love to have that. And someday in the future, hopefully the science will advance long enough to where we can be able to dose patients. But for right now, we don't have that. So when you're looking at supply, when you're looking at forecast, you're not really looking at product demand. You're trying to predict disease.
Right.
And at some part or another, when you have your process starting from day in and day out, it's really, really difficult to be able to try to optimize or level load your manufacturing, because the patient has come, the patient has its cells coming, you have to be ready.
One of the interesting things that we talked about before we got to meet actually today instead of over Zoom was the time period of the process. We're not talking months and years, we're talking days.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how quickly this has to occur?
So right now we have the industry-leading what we call turnaround time or patient service. So right now we're telling about 17 days, and we're always looking for opportunities.
17
to
days from the
that,
time
right?
that they come in and the blood is taken to the time that you have a dose for them.
Manufacture it, test it,
Wow.
qualities, be able to release it, return it back to an infusion center for the patient to be able to be infused and monitored with doctor's care.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Wow.
And at some part or another, it was unthinkable. But if you're looking at some of the early stage therapies that are out there, particularly with MD Anderson, some of these things can take 2 to 3 months. And other therapies that are working on can take upwards to 7 months. So where we are right now as an industry, I think it's with the thought of the patient, knowing that a patient is waiting, knowing that the families are rallied around this person,
Right.
17 days sometimes can seem too long. So we're always looking for an opportunity to be able to be much more closer to the patient, reduce as much worry as we can, and deliver that one dose. Not planning for another dose. It is that one dose that we're working on to be able to deliver to that patient. That's our goal.
Great. Well, that makes perfect sense. talking a little bit more, and of course talking about what you can talk about. I know there's some different proprietary things that you can't. But when we look at the future of cell therapy, as 1 in 4, I believe, is the latest statistic of Americans will come down with cancer at some point in their lives. What does the future look like for cell therapy and other types of cancers? I know right now Kite is concentrating on quite a few different types of, blood cancers. But what could that look like in the future? I know this is probably something you dream about and you go to sleep thinking about every night. But for the other types of cancers, what could it look like?
I don't know. And that's it. There's nobody in this room who knows. I think as the science is evolving, it becomes, we kind of go with the science. And when we're looking at where we were, at least for 5 years, to where we are now, it's completely different. So other opportunities would be, we're always looking to be able to
Could you walk us through that?
Sure.
So what it looked like 5 years ago, what it looks like now, and what things helped you get there?
So in five years ago, it was basically a very manual process. If you go and you look into the manufacturing areas, it looked like something that came out of a university lab. So working under hoods, open processing, really trying to be able to control your sterility. The assays that you're using to be able to test for potency of the therapy were not really good. All of that has advanced a lot more to where we're now trying to be able to get to the part to where we're looking at closing the process. And closing the process to us is extremely important in an industry perspective, because you're able to maintain that sterility. You're turning this therapy back to a patient.
Right.
So trying to be able to keep this as clean and as sterile as possible is the ultimate responsibility of a manufacturing organization. So the amount of time that it takes to be able to make sure those processes improve has made leaps and bounds. As far as the manufacturing, you're seeing where a lot of people are trying to add as much automation as possible, and that's taken the technique out of it that really relies on human-to-human technique, human-to-human error in many instances. So there's a ton of work that's going on with so many manufacturing equipment providers to be able to provide equipment that allows the process to be much more robust and much more repeatable, as much as it can be. Because remember, we're talking about individual cells.
One patient.
Coming different, your starting material is completely different. So that really requires the manufacturing and the area to be very smart and very knowledgeable about cell biology and the other things that are required so we can respond and understand the process as it goes on.
So you talked a little bit about the automation and trying to reduce human error because you have such a short time period to turn around. And the patients come to you very ill to begin with. Talk to me a little bit why Frederick was such a great place. You're talking about very, very high-tech automation processes and a workforce that needs to know how to work in a facility like this. Can you talk to me a little bit about why this area is such a great home for this facility?
So this facility, I take no accountability for selecting the area, but it was absolutely perfect. I mean, first and foremost, you're looking at the community. And the community here is well trained. We've got so many collaborations with Hood College, with Frederick Community College, and looking to expand in that area. The talent is here. And the community that we have, especially in Urbana and the Southern Frederick Park, have really embraced us as part of their community. So if you see the facility, it's not in an area that is an industrial complex that's 5 miles out of town. We're there. We're in the community, and we've been embraced as part of the community. And we take that with an ultimate level of respect and gratitude for the folks around us. So the talent is here, and you're looking as you go down the corridor, you're seeing more and more cell therapy. So you've got the NIH, you've got all of the budding technologies that are coming up. The talent truly is here. Now it comes to the part to where, how are we able to attract the talent, as everybody else is trying to do? How do we attract the right talent to be able to provide the right tools, the right resources to be able to help people be a part of something, at least as far as Kite, that is going to be bigger than all of us. There's not one single person within Kite that makes something happen on their own. So I always say there's no Nobel Prizes for manufacturing, because it takes an incredible amount of team collaboration and congeniality for us to be able to make something happen. But the other thing for the area, we're centrally located to 3 major airports. And when you're talking about that logistics portion, the logistics is just as beautiful and is needed in the processing and manufacturing of cell therapy than anything else.
Patient has to get here.
That's it. So it's almost kind of like in all of the other areas where traditional pharma has never been excellent, cell therapy has to be excellent in every single one of the areas, and it's quite a challenge.
Very interesting. Looking at the facility, and I have I don't know if we call it the luxury, but I happen to cover a region. So I'm always comparing Maryland to the biohub that Virginia's trying to become. And, I always talk about how having CDC and NIH and, all these huge brain trusts of science in this area is a huge attractor. And I know that Marty and the Maryland Tech Council has worked so hard to really have this area grow as this biohub. And it's interesting to hear you say that no one at Kite can do anything alone. It's all collaboration.
That's it.
And I think that's what Marty and this group has really tried to do over the last 6 or 7 years that I've been working with them. If you're thinking of someone out there who has a great idea and they want to partner with Kite, what would you say to them as to how they could get involved? Obviously, there's multiple vendor relationships with an organization and such as Kite. What would your advice be to them if they had an idea of a way they could help you, whether it was expediting, getting patients from the airport to the facility, anything that would help move the process or expedite or make it more efficient?
And that's where the collaboration with the Maryland Tech Council comes in. So really bringing a lot of people with the great ideas and having those conversations. I mean, we had a really wonderful event with the BioBuzz. And I've never really experienced something like that in quite some time. I spent a lot of time in Houston. I spent a lot of time during the pandemic. But, places like Albany and Holly Springs are just so small.
Right.
And this was really my first experience of having really interesting people coming with great ideas and being able to share. So I'd say, first of all, attend, and we're supporting these things to be able to share and collaborate. Now, some part of it comes down to ideas about clinical trials and whatnot. We can point people in the right direction. I think if most people have been following Kite, we've realized that, yes, we're going to have our internal research, but the startups in the cell therapy space have grown from 200 to over 1,000 in the past 5 years, to the point to where you can't have all of it coming from homegrown research anymore.
Right.
You have to get to the part to where you're willing to collaborate and open up your mind and bring in people who are wanting to be able to partner with us. So I think it's a great opportunity to continue to just build that network within the Maryland area. Reach out to some of the leaders that we have in here, and we'll point you in the right direction. But I have to tell you, the bright eyes and the people who really focus on how to address a problem rather than accepting a problem with the patient in mind, these are the people that we want to be able to have greater discussion with. These are the folks that we want to be able to hire, bring in a part of our organization, and will help us to be better than we've ever imagined to be.
That's fantastic. I love to hear this, and I think one of the great things about this organization as well is that they really are they lean in on all different types of research. And I think we talked briefly about how some of the scrutiny that some of the early cell therapy work is under, and as you said, there's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
So what would some of the things that restrict the work, or maybe the possibilities of CAR-T be that you'd like to see maybe opened up?
With CAR-T, it's proven to be very powerful within the heme malignancy. So as Kite, we're really focused on focusing. And at some part or another, you have to be able to get good before you move on. So this is where we're really focused on what are the products that we have, what are the technologies that we have, and let's make them excellent. But that doesn't mean that the evolution and the science doesn't evolve around you. So this is where that partnership comes. So at some part when we're looking at the CAR-Ts, I'm the worst stock picker you'll ever find. I mean, don't take advice from me and how the future's going to be. But as you're coming to see to where how things have evolved, it will be CAR-T. But all of the other technologies that are evolving out there with macrophages and iPSCs, neoantigen is coming up. It is one of those ones to where it's not about yours winning the entire, I would say, race, so to speak, the race to cure cancer. It's embracing all these technologies and giving the oncologist and giving the patient every chance that they have, because cancer, as we know, is a very, very personal disease.
Yes.
And there's not just one thing that is going to go out. We have to give everybody an opportunity with all of the technologies and all the science we're able to muster.
And I like the way that you put that you know, it's not about winning the race or one organization or one product being available to take care of that entire disease class. Obviously, coming from PhRMA, we like to see healthy competition among our members, and we believe that it is the competition that drives the science as well. Because there is so, you know, we are on this new frontier of gene therapy. And I think it's so important to recognize not just the strengths of other competitors, but as you noted earlier, the smaller startups and the smaller research firms. I talk a lot about, I think what isn't talked about a lot in states and biohubs and biopharma, which is the small startups and the testing facilities. We test so much in our world. And we have massive testing facilities in Maryland, and I know other states are always trying to get some of those resources to their states as well. Excuse me. And I think that that's what you've really found here, and maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but why Kite feels like they can do really hit the ground running with this brand new facility.
Absolutely.
And I do want to go back to this facility one more time, because it was quite groundbreaking, and I remember when it was being built and all the work that was going into it, you know, it was a lot of hush-hush. But could you talk a little bit about the facility itself and maybe why it's kind of, what is the future?
So it's a little daunting because I'm staring at the person who's responsible for the project and bringing the facility. So Alexis Melendez, and you know, when I first came up, he brought my family, my young girls, through there, and we all had tears in our eyes. You know, we're just so excited about everything. So this is really his I would say, hopefully it's going to be the cherry on your career. But there would be none that will surpass this. But as you're looking at this technology or this facility, number one, how many times do you go into a manufacturing and the first thing you see is a do not enter, restricted access, and you have no idea what's going on in there. When I was a kid growing up in Indiana, Eli Lilly had these opportunities where they were going out to urban and rural areas, and they would bus kids in so we could actually see, number one, the big city, but number two, what Lilly was actually doing. And I would go there.
That's good STEM foundation pipeline work right there.
That's when I was watching this and I thought, oh my goodness, you know, we actually have the opportunity to be able to help here. Because you take things from the PowerPoint into the manufacturing. And the way this facility is designed, you don't have to gown up. You can go through, and there are some areas in the facility you can see all the way through. And it's full of glass, and it's open, it's inviting for the operators, number one, to be able to concentrate and focus. But then also it's great opportunity to be able to bring people in to see manufacturing and to see the testing and to be a part of that without having to be able to compromise the areas. So when I first saw this facility, I immediately started thinking back, you know, when I was a kid, and that was the springboard for me to want to be able to be a part of something like this. So when you're looking at also the facility, it's not traditional in its blocks. It's wide open area. There's screens that we've got in every single area to be able to bring the information, and we're going to continue to evolve this, but bring information to the operators so they have the information that they need live to the moment to where they can make decisions where they need to, following the procedures, of course. But then also, a lot of other facilities have pipes all over the place. Okay, this one doesn't have pipes all over the place. This has a design that allows us to be able to bring technology and turn it around and change it as technology continues to evolve. So again, tying into what Kite was doing with the collaboration with research, we are embracing an evolution of technology within the manufacturing, and we have an expectation that things are going to be much different. And we're not going to be saying, well, this is the way we did it, this is the way we're going to do it again. This is the way we did it, we learned from it, and this is the way we're going to do it better. But at some part or another, this facility is extremely flexible. And we've always said, let's congratulate ourselves when we have an approved facility, but in 5 years, it's going to look different and we expect it to. So we don't want to be an organization that will cross your arms and say, well, this doesn't fit in my facility. We look at something, has a patient need, and we start asking, how can we make this happen? And I think we have the facility to do it.
That's fantastic.
So congratulations, Alexis. You've done a wonderful job. Be shy.
And I think that's something also that we've seen in the last 18 months is this ability to pivot.
Yeah.
This industry has an amazing ability to pivot. We watched some of our own member companies, completely transform manufacturing plants to create PPE, where they were once making a pharmaceutical product. We saw Lilly, actually, I believe it was, allow their employees, while being paid their salary, who had medical backgrounds, to go back to the clinic to be with patients again when we needed more frontline workers. So I think that innovation really is the ability to pivot. And this biopharma hub that we're building here gives us that ability to pivot to whatever pandemic is next, whatever disease is next, whatever virus comes at us. And it makes me get up in the morning. It is my inspiration because what our companies do every day makes me go out and want to do my job. Even if everyone wants to talk about pricing all the time, this is what gets me up every day because there is no price on life-saving cures. There is no price on extending your life. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and let you brag a little bit about all the awesome work that's being done at Kite. And just one more story, and I am going to take you up on that invitation to come see the site because I want to see it with my own eyes, and it's truly inspirational, the work that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Want to give you an opportunity. Anything else that you would like to talk about Kite or the work that you do, and then maybe we'll open it up to any questions that we might have.
No, I think in general, we've talked about we talk about a site and we talk about being a part. Just a reminder that this site is not a site of its own. It's a site that's part of a network.
Yes.
So we have a facility in California. We also have one in Amsterdam. We have manufacturing partnerships that have started in China. So being this site that's in Frederick automatically connects you to the world. We have an opportunity to be able to have this facility, be approved, and being able to treat patients from around the world. So I think it's a great opportunity for Maryland to recognize that they can be a part of a world-class, world-producing, life-saving therapy. So, and the other thing that we're looking for is we're looking for people, and I will say this, we see this in the video, we're looking for problem solvers. There are so many talented people that are out there that really have great ideas, and the most naive eyes are the ones that I want to hear from. We bring people into the facility, they look at opportunities and they look at the way things are doing, and they start asking the right questions. Questions that when you're so intimately close to something, you wouldn't be able to think. These are the kind of people we're looking to be able to bring in. So in general, if you care about your patient, if you care about your colleagues, if you care about the quality of your work, and if you care about yourself, then these are the people we want to bring into Kite and to be able to just be a part of everything that we're trying to be able to do and really, really have just an impact of thousands and thousands of patients, and then even more so with the families. Just extremely important work we're doing here.
That's great. Whenever I get invited to this, I always like to give people homework. I have 2 small children, so I'm used to this line of questioning, but I would take what Jim just said as a challenge for you and your organization in finding a way to partner, bringing a new solution, or maybe it's bringing a new problem with a solution. I always like to work with the people in my organization who don't say, no, we can't do it, but I like the people who say, no, we can't do it that way, but I have another idea.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, no, we can't do it that way. But it's never okay to say there isn't a path forward. And so I would just challenge you in your organization or in your role to, one, get more involved with the Maryland Tech Council, unless you work for them, of course, because then you're very involved. But look for a way that you can partner and collaborate, because that is what will make this this new revolution something that Maryland can be proud of and that you can be proud of. I look forward to all the incredible things that Kite's going to do, and all the great things that you and your organizations are going to do in Maryland. And when I'm in Annapolis and trying to remind the legislators of all the important work that's being done here, I love hearing your stories. So get to work and give me a good story to tell when I go to Annapolis. So thank you very much, and happy to take any questions. I don't know if we have microphones in the room or not, Brad.
Thank you, Nicole. Jim, thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure. I want to echo exactly what you said about Alexis. So if you ever have the opportunity to visit the Kite facility, Alexis is a miracle worker that's incredible to get to ask him. He's very patient in answering the questions that I had, and I still have more. But it's a spectacular facility. But Jim, last time I was there, I had a discussion with you, which was very interesting. You started to allude to this a little bit earlier, and I wanted to ask this because I think it's helpful to everyone who's here. So much of this industry and the people that work in it, I started in the small molecule world, so we were talking about APIs before, and then the next big challenge became scaling up biologics in these massive bioreactors and getting bigger and bigger and trying to increase yields. And yet, where we see medicine going is exactly what you're doing, which is exactly the opposite. It's scaling down to individual human beings, with genetically modified therapies and those sorts of things. I think what you're doing is fascinating. You've got 3 facilities around the world, and as you described the processes when you first started at MD Anderson, they're continually evolving. I mean, these were very, very basic processes that were never intended, quite honestly, to scale to treating multiple individuals, much less thousands. So how do you think about that as a site head? And as you said, 5 years from now, this plant won't be the same as it is today. How do you think about that continual evolution and how those processes are going to change? And particularly when you deal with the FDA, and this isn't a criticism, but that's not how that's designed, right? They're designed to lock down processes and manage and control those processes. And so how do you think about that complex problem? Because everyone here is ultimately going to face that challenge as we go forward. Yeah,
Transparency. I mean, the agency wants to partner with us as well as partner with others. So it's, again, if you understand what you're doing, if you understand your limitations, then you really do have an obligation to be able to partner with the agency to be able to be transparent. So we have a glass facility, not just for being able to see outside, but also just a reflection of transparency. There's nothing hidden within the site. So I think there's opportunities there. As we come and go through, we really need, as a leadership team, as individuals, as managers, to be able to not be complacent. So where we're seeing, we can be proud of what we've done, and let's celebrate really quickly, and let's get on to making it better. So this is where you have to be able to have an understanding of where you're embracing that new technology. I think we're all looking for opportunities to be able to minimize at least the time, minimize the impact to the patient, and then, we talk a lot of things about the new technology, emerging technology with allo. I think that's a promising technology to where you're able to take some starting cells to be able to dose multiple patients from one single batch. So that helps in many aspects of more robust process, lowering the cost of goods for patients, and reducing the amount of weight for the patient and the impact. So there's a lot of these things, but they still need to be proven. At some part or another, like I said, not one is going to win at all. But when we have the autologous, when we have allo, when we have all of the new technologies that are being evaluated to go after the solid tumor, these are the things that, again, you need to be able to focus to get good at what you currently are, with an understanding that it should be able to prepare you for the things to come. So, Brett, I know that probably doesn't answer totally your question, but, the one thing that I learned about MD Anderson is that I don't know, we'll figure it out. And if you got confidence in your colleagues, if you got confidence in your region and in your talent, whatever comes, if it works, we will find a way to get it to the patient. So it's an exciting time, to be quite honest.
Great. Are there any other questions in the audience? Well, I'll just close by saying thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of the Maryland Tech Council and this Bioinnovation Conference. As I said in the beginning, whether it's cancer that we're staring down as a people or it is a pandemic, we will only be able to succeed by innovating out of it. And I believe that Kite is one great example of finding a way and a path forward. I'm so glad they're here in Frederick, and I look forward to working with you, Jim, and coming to see the facility, and look forward to taking any questions afterwards. If anyone would like to talk to Jim or myself, we will be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the next Silicon Valley, and Montgomery County is absolutely the epicenter of this activity.
The county has gotten more and more adept in terms of building and permitting urban facilities for life science.
The government here encourage the growth of biotech and make it really easy to create a company here or to move a company here or to grow an existing company or a subsidiary of it in this area.
It's really an untapped resource in terms of the federal intellectual property being generated out of Montgomery County, and they're really making a push to find companies that will commercialize this priceless intellectual property.
One of the reasons why we chose Rockville is because of its close proximity to the NIH, FDA, and government agencies that we would be marketing our product to.
So we're committed to staying in Montgomery County because of all the benefits of being in this area.